where did the original idea for Unbreakable come from and propelled you to write it? I guess during post-production for The Sixth Sense?
Yeah, when I was editing Sixth Sense, I was writing Unbreakable. Originally it was a plane crash and a guy survives and then is told, someone says, I think you might be a real life superhero, but then I put it into a train because I love trains and I felt it was more comic booky for me. And then it felt more reasonable that he would survive without a scratch and so could be dismissed as luck. But then Elijah's character, comes to him and says, no, I think you might be a superhero. So this idea of a regular person who doesn't have anything to do with superheroes and in a world that doesn't exist is told, hey, these fake things in comic books, I think they're actually based on people like you. There was at that time, really no comic book movies that had ever come out, and it was a silly thing to make a movie about. It just felt very confusing, I think, for the studio at that time. And it was seen as a fringe element of the movie that this is about comic books. So, oh, those are those weirdos that hang out at those conventions. And again, back then there was just Comic-Con, and it was very niche at that time, and people weren't aware of it, and it was more cult-like kind of stuff. So they said, let's not make this a cult subject movie. So let's sell it more as a general thriller. We're never going to mention comic books, superheroes, any of that. So then that meant you couldn't even do the main plot of the movie because that's the plot of the movie. Hey, I think you're a real life superhero. That couldn't be said in the ads. So it was really weird and ironic time that the thing that dominates the film industry now, it was the one thing they were running from, and they thought that was the least commercial element of the film. So really, obviously, times have changed a great deal.
You wrote the role of David for Bruce, correct? Mm-hmm. Why was he the perfect person for this hero?
We'd just done Sixth Sense, and I guess he and I was feeling we're kind of a team, and one of my favorite movies is Pulp Fiction, and I really wanted that flavor that Sam and Bruce gave in Pulp Fiction for Unbreakable. Obviously a totally different story and all of that stuff, but that kind of cool, edgy, grounded quality that they both had. I thought, his quietness versus his pizzazz could be really fun. So it was really from Quentin that I kind of grabbed that union. It's always terrifying to direct for me. But at that time, I think I was 29 when I was doing Unbreakable, or maybe even 28 when I wrote it. I was still in early stages of my career, and those guys were icons. And so, and I was being very aggressive about the way we were making the movie. Long takes, 3-minute takes, 2-minute takes, 4-minute takes. So really aggressive filmmaking, and they just have to trust me. There's no close-ups, there's no this, there's no that, and it's very play-like. And so it feels very illogical when I'm saying, hey, we're gonna do this shot, it's gonna do like this, and 8 people are gonna talk, and if the 8th person in minute 2.5 makes a mistake, we're gonna have to do this shot over again. A lot of people would say, we're not gonna do it that way. We're just not doing it. I'm not gonna nail it and then have that person mess it up. But I believe in the theater of cinema that way, that there's a reason that person won't mess up, is because you're all connected in this ineffable way. And they started to believe in it, but at first it was very intimidating.
Well, I mean, he had certain ways he wanted us to do things, and he would tell us to do them. It's like, as an actor, I came up through the theater, and theater is essentially a dictatorship. The director tells you to do something, you do it. Or they ask you a question, you have to have the right answer to justify what you're doing. Night went further than that. It was like, I already know what you're going to do, and I want you to do it this way. So we were kind of like his puppets in an interesting kind of way.
Do you remember a particular moment or scene from the first film?
Yeah, there were specific times he would say, okay, try not to blink. Just do the whole scene without blinking. It's like, really? Or he would say, don't say the line that way, say it this way. And I'm one of those actors that hates being given line readings, but he was very adamant about it. Even though later on, when we did ADR, he'd go back, remember that line, the way you wanted to do it that way.
Which one made the cut?
Mine.
And what was it like working with Bruce? You'd obviously worked with him before. But
well, Bruce and I have been around together for, quite a bit. So going round and round in that. So it's kind of easy for us to kind of listen to Night or look at Night and kind of look at each other and go, yeah, wait till this kid finds out.
Yeah, you know, it slowly grew. You know, when the movie opened, I think there was a kind of a disconnect because they were thinking it was kind of a sequel to Sixth Sense because it was me and Bruce, and we sold it like that, sold it like it was a thriller only, and no understanding of the comic book world. And so there was confusion. People were coming to see a scary movie, and that's not what they saw, you know? So there was really a disconnect. But immediately, as the DVD came out, you started to feel the change in their perception of the movie. And oh, wait, this is about comic books? And then again, 6 months later, 6 months later, 6 months later, it just kept growing and growing until, you know, I would cross the street, and if you and I were hanging out, invariably someone would come up to us and say, Unbreakable, I love it, man. When are you making the sequel? When are you making the sequel? And that would grow. And now, even before Split, the first thing I would say in a press junket is, I'm going to answer your first question already. No, I'm not making a sequel to Unbreakable. Okay, next question. And then we would continue along. So it became a big thing. You could feel it everywhere that I went, that this thing of Unbreakable was building. And I do think over the years, Unbreakable is the one that has grown the most.